So at the start of a brand new year, Prime Video has added a bunch of great movies, but unlike Netflix, it's not a lot of new popular stuff. No, they've actually added some really great movies already on January 1st. But in this video, I'm gonna explain other stuff that they're adding throughout the month, including a new comedy starring Will Ferrell and Reese Witherspoon that comes out at the end of the month. This video is sponsored by Dream. We'll talk more about them in a bit. Now, in my notes, it says that A Quiet Place Day 1 is getting added on January 1st, but if you watched last month's video, it was supposed to be the 31st. Either way, it's on Prime Video now, and I do recommend it. I think I like the other two movies better, but this is an interesting departure from the main storyline. One of my top recommendations for the entire month, though, is a classic from 1967, In the Heat of the Night. It's a classic movie about racism in America that actually still holds up and feels pretty relevant today, like in a surprising way. Sidney Poitier plays a Philadelphia police detective who finds himself in the Deep South as the suspect of a local murder. So he's this accomplished investigator that is dealing with these small town, narrow-minded police. And I think this movie has a lot of significant things to say on race in America, or at least more significant ideas than a lot of the racially charged content they're making today seems to have. So just a really solid movie, and aside from all the racial stuff, it ends up being a good murder mystery as well.
They call me Mr. Tibbs.
Two total classics directed by Clint Eastwood, one being Unforgiven. Probably still his greatest achievement as a director. It is just not only a solid Western, but the movie features really interesting commentary on gun culture, also sort of the culture of the West. It looks at it in a very different light than most classic Western movies do. So I think Unforgiven is actually kind of a mind-blowing movie when it's framed within the context of like other great Western flicks. And then American Sniper. I mean, you can say what you want about the fake baby at the end of the movie. I realize that's kind of ridiculous in a big movie like this, but the movie overall is an excellent modern warfare flick. Bradley Cooper's amazing in it. In fact, he was so good in this movie, it's the reason you don't really see him in a ton of stuff anymore. He kind of made it to a level in Hollywood where he can just do whatever he wants, whenever he wants. But no, seriously, he took like a financial deal with American Sniper where he didn't get paid, he got like a percentage. American Sniper outperformed any expectations, and he made way more money than most people at his level at that time. It's kind of a crazy story. Boogie Nights is a classic I always love to watch. Yes, it does have its disturbing points, but it's such an epic ride through the 70s and the 80s. Obviously, it's very sexually explicit. It revolves around the porn industry. But again, outside of the porn stuff, which is all very interesting, you really are going on this tour through the 70s and 80s with the soundtrack and the costumes and the themes and everything. It's all pretty fantastic. Again, with its dark and disturbing points as well. For some action, they're adding The Equalizer. This first one I think is underrated. In fact, it was so good they ended up making two more that I didn't think were nearly as good as this first. If you don't know, this is based on an old TV show, but you don't need to know that going into it. You just need to know it's a movie where Denzel Washington is efficiently wrecking people. I particularly love that the climax in this movie takes place in like a Home Depot style hardware store. But for some over-the-top action, they're adding Edge of Tomorrow. Just an excellent Tom Cruise sci-fi action movie, and it's one that I've revisited forgetting how much I actually liked it. I mean, the plot here is based on Groundhog Day, and you go into it thinking that it's something you've seen before, but this movie does a great job of using that device, even though you are revisiting the same scenes over and over again in Edge of Tomorrow. It always somehow feels fresh. I mean, the first half of the movie is fast-paced and exciting, and then as the story develops, you end up with an even more fast-paced and exciting climax. It really is an excellent, over-the-top sci-fi action flick. If that's not enough Tom Cruise, they also just added The Last Samurai. Not quite an action movie, much more of a drama that's got quite a bit of action in it. But for some solid dramas, they're adding The Ides of March, which is an incredible political drama starring Ryan Gosling. He's got another movie I love that they're adding on the 2nd. We'll get to that in a minute. But he's like a campaign organizer for a political candidate played by George Clooney, and the movie is very much about the backdoor dealings in political campaigns. It is a work of fiction, but especially in today's climate, there's a lot you can glean from it. And then Scent of a Woman is one I haven't seen in forever. I realize it's a classic, most people know a lot of the scenes, but as a 40-year-old man, I'm interested to go back and revisit this one to see kind of how it grabs me. as an older man.
You don't know what that art is, Mr. Trask. I'd show you, but I'm too old.
All right, though, for some comedies, though, they're adding one of my just favorite absurd comedies, MacGruber. This is not one I recommend for everybody, but if you like really ridiculous stuff, you know, like classic movies like Airplane, MacGruber is just solid gold. It is crude. I mean, if you're easily offended, I don't know what you're doing following most of my recommendations, but MacGruber is particularly offensive and oh so funny.
Where have you been?
I just took an upper decker in the master bathroom.
Upper decker?
Yes, where you take a number 2 in the water tank and not in the bowl. You look great.
The Blues Brothers, a classic that's hard to pass up. I wish this movie were more family friendly. I remember watching it on TV when I was a kid, but it was on cable, so it was heavily censored, and it's a rough one to watch with the kids, but this is the closest you're gonna get to seeing me like enjoy a musical. I realize Blues Brothers is not a musical, but it's pretty damn close. Horrible Bosses and Horrible Bosses 2 were both added. I think both are incredibly funny. The first one's excellent. It's got an interesting story, it's got some tense moments, and the second one's kind of a cash grab, but the jokes and the humor I think are every bit as funny as the first. Tag is a movie I was kind of disappointed with. I didn't think it was as funny as it maybe should have been, but it is an interesting concept and does have a good cast. It's about a bunch of buddies who play this intense game of tag every year. And don't get me wrong, it is funny, it just maybe doesn't hold up to multiple rewatches like I had hoped. If you've never seen it though, it is worth checking out. Ted, the unrated edition, which just means it's got like 2 minutes of crude jokes that they didn't put in the theatrical cut, but still a very funny movie that I do consider to be highly rewatchable. And then an odd recommendation for sure, and not one for everybody, but I thought I would mention The Cutting Edge. Believe it or not, this is kind of a cult classic ice skating movie. It's melodramatic, it's a bit over the top, and I think that's kind of why people like this movie. But it's also got a good story, but it's about an ice skater, and again, it's very melodramatic. It's not one I recommend for people who typically like my recommendations, but I do know that that movie has a cult following and it's rarely available on streaming. Now, they've also added one of my favorite action comedies to have come out last year. They've already added it here on the 2nd, but before we get to that, I want to tell you about how today's sponsor, Dream by Beam, can help you get some better sleep. It's been helping me get some more comfortable sleep anyway, and that's because it's a luxury drink mixture that is loaded with the best sleep-promoting ingredients. It's a powder that you mix with just a little bit of warm milk or water about 30 minutes to an hour before bed. I tend to enjoy mine about halfway through my last movie of the day. And Dream has been clinically shown to help you fall asleep faster, stay asleep, and wake up feeling refreshed, which is the point of a good night of sleep. You don't want to wake up feeling all groggy. And I've been enjoying Dream even though I'm not someone who has chronic sleep issues. In fact, I typically fall asleep with no problem, but as a 40-year-old man, I find multiple things wake me up in the middle of the night. I've got kids, I drink a lot of water, whatever it is. I find on nights when I've had Dream before bed, I slip right back to sleep comfortably without any issues. And again, the most important thing, I wake up feeling fresh. Dream is available in a CBD version and a non-CBD version. I have been using the non-CBD version. And it comes in a bunch of different flavors. The original one is like a cocoa cinnamon. It's really nice and luxurious, like I said. But there's chocolate brownie that's more chocolatey. There's chocolate mint, chocolate peanut butter. And Dream is gluten-free, dairy-free, with no added sugars, no GMOs, and no artificial flavors. So if you want to set yourself up to be a healthier, more well-rested version of yourself in 2025, take advantage of the New Year's sale and get up to 40% off site-wide when you use my link in the description or this QR code. Again, that's up to 40% off site-wide for something that's guaranteed to help you get better sleep. Again, all you got to do is go to shopbeam.com/flick or use this QR code. It's a product I have been loving for almost a year now, but speaking of stuff I love, let's get back to this movie list with The Fall Guy, which they've added on January 2nd, one of my favorite movies of 2024. Yes, it's a silly, cheesy, romantic comedy with a bit of action mixed in, but it is a movie lover's comedy. I mean, it is all about movie making, shows a lot of respect for stunt workers and shows a lot of what they have to go through, but also just all sorts of behind the scenes stuff. If you're a movie nerd like me, there's just a lot to love with this, and it's not just the behind the scenes stuff. The action is incredibly well crafted with time limits and pressures and everything, and then everyone's performance is really funny as well. I mean, the leads are both great, but then Aaron Taylor Johnson kind of plays the heel in this movie. He's very funny in it. And it's from the same director as Bullet Train, Atomic Blonde, and Deadpool 2. So if you've enjoyed any of those, this is a pretty family-friendly PG-13 romp.
You hear me? It's too dangerous. Gotta be stairs. Okay.
What happened to your face? You look terrible.
You look amazing.
All right, but jumping all the way ahead to January 10th, they're adding Focus with Will Smith and Margot Robbie. This has been on Netflix for the past few months. It is an interesting con man type of a movie. Has a pace almost kind of like a heist movie with twists and turns. Not a top recommendation for me, but it's a slick flick and I do recommend it. On the 15th, they're adding the classic show Monk, seasons 1 through 8. I know it's a show people love, it's the only reason I included it. I even hesitated to include it because there's just so much stuff to watch.
When people look at me, the first thing they see is what's missing. If I win, having one leg won't be the most important thing about me.
On the 16th, they're releasing a new Prime original movie titled Unstoppable, which is the true story of a young man who was born with one leg and became a wrestling champion, I believe, for Arizona State University. Don Cheadle's in this, Jennifer Lopez has a little role, but honestly, the story itself is what's got me interested the most. On the same day, they're adding Jurassic World, a movie I enjoyed, but nothing is ever gonna replicate the original Jurassic Park. And then on the 21st, they're adding Blink Twice, which is a thriller starring Channing Tatum. It was actually directed by Zoe Kravitz, and I liked a lot of elements of this movie and just ultimately did not like where it ended up. I feel like the movie set itself up for much more interesting ideas than the ones it ultimately decided to pursue. But overall, it's a pretty slick thriller. I realize some people got into it, but it's a really bizarre representation of something that actually happens, but they're representing it in a way that's not even close to, not even close to how this stuff seems to occur. That's the best I can say without spoiling it, but tread lightly with this one. It can be pretty disturbing.
Where's my knife? Who has my knife?
Oh, dude, your eye.
What? Oh, no, I know, right?
There's something weird going on here.
Now, they're actually adding a handful of good movies on the 31st, but before that, on the 30th, there's a new Will Ferrell comedy that's a Prime Video original that actually looks pretty good. It's titled You're Cordially Invited.
Oh, no. We've double booked your weddings. What?
It's kind of a father of the bride type thing where he books his daughter's wedding at this nice venue, but Reese Witherspoon is playing a high-powered wedding planner who also books at the same venue on an accidental double booking. They're sharing a bathroom, both trying to get things done at sunset, that type of stuff. If you like wedding chaos movies, this actually looks like a pretty good one, but the reason I'll be watching it is because it does look like it goes into typical, ridiculous Will Ferrell territory.
I caught this guy and I was gonna unleash him, but then I wrestled him too hard and now I think he's dead.
That's not dead.
Well, you don't know
Okay, pick it up!
See you later, alligator!
But then on the 31st, they're adding Friday Night Lights, Knocked Up, Scarface, and Breach, a little-known thriller that I highly recommend. Chris Cooper plays Robert Hansen. If you don't remember this story, he was actually put on trial for selling secrets to the Russians. And it was a big scandal in American politics. The movie actually captures it quite well. The story focuses on Ryan Phillippe's character, a new recruit who kind of stumbles onto this plot. It's just an excellent, simmering political thriller. Honestly, this one and The Ides of March make for two just excellent and underrated political dramas. But that is it for the month. Do not forget to go check out that Beam link down in the video description, or here's the QR code again if you want to, get some better sleep. But I will keep making these videos as long as y'all keep watching them. Thanks for checking out this Prime Video episode, and you will see me on the next one.